Happy Sunday. I went ahead and I am just actually doing a Zoom by myself so I can record it and then download this video so that you guys can catch it whenever. And also before 5 p.m. this time, because that's actually pretty late on the East Coast. So the child is down taking a nap, and I thought I would seize the day and make this resource available for you. So this is the macros, which I know some of you are really interested in. Some have a lot of experience in, some not so much. This is an option that I give my clients for us to work through. I have to be honest, not a lot of clients really take it, and I don't press it too hard because it is very overwhelming when you are front loading an entire lifestyle. What I do think is really beneficial about macros is it just gets you to see your food in a different way. Okay. Which is addressing the nutrients and understanding how those can honestly make your body feel. And then when we get into things like glucose for energy and insulin resistance and fat burning and things like that, a calorie is a measurement of energy, but a macro truly is how that calorie is created, right? Like what it consists of. So this is finding your macros and making them work for you. All right, so what are macros? So there are three macros: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So pretty much all food consists of these three things. Micronutrients are things like vitamins. Micronutrients, when you look at an ingredient label, micronutrients is the riboflavin, calcium, phosphorus, things like that that are under the top. But on a nutrition fact ingredient label, the macros are really first. It goes calories, fat, carbs, and protein. So those are your three building blocks of calories. Now, I have a pen, I have paper, I have my phone for a calculator. I did actually do this ahead of time, but I will have this here so you can follow along. So if weight loss is your goal, and maybe not even weight loss, but just less fat, more muscle, you're still going to want to eat in a little bit of a calorie deficit. So what we need to do the very beginning, and this is a lot of steps, but it is worth it because it's worth understanding what you need, where you are, and how to adjust your goals to it. All right. So we're going to find your basal metabolic rate first. Your basal metabolic rate is the amount of calories that your body burns just to exist. If you laid in bed and blinked your eyes and didn't move, how many calories does that take? It actually takes quite a few, right? Because you got your heart pumping and your digestion going and your lungs are breathing, your eyes are blinking. So even if we are totally sedentary, our body is still burning calories. So we need to find out what that bottom baseline necessity is, which is called your BMR. So for a female, here is your formula. Now you want to first do 4.35 times body weight and get that number. Then you want to do your 4.7 times your height in inches. So there are 12 inches in a foot. So 12 times how many feet you are, and then plus whatever inches you are. Minus, oh, not minus yet. Then you want to find your 4.7 times your age. So get all of those ready. And then you add 655, add that other sum, and then minus your age. And then that will be your BMR. So for a 5'6", 150-pound, 41-year-old woman, the BMR is 1424. All right, 1,424 calories to exist. All right. Your TDEE is your total daily energy expenditure. So while your BMR is what your body is using to do all those things inside that we don't have to think about because our bodies are miracles, you're going to take your BMR and you are going to times it by what your activity is. All right. So this is physical activity. So light activity 1 to 3 days a week. So is that just like taking the dog for a couple walks a week? Or just chasing around a young kid, or like, let's say if I was teaching but I wasn't working out at all, then I would put light activity because it's still walking like crazy. Moderate activity, so that's 3 to 5 days a week, and that means that there are like intentional workouts in there in some shape or form. Heavy activity, 6 to 7 days a week, that's also kind of like a manual labor job, so that's like you're really using a lot of calories a day. So I did moderate activity for this. Most of you can choose moderate activity, especially if you are implementing those 3 extra cardios. And if you are planning on these 3 workouts a week, then moderate activity is definitely where you want to be. So our last BMR, 1424 times 1.55 leaves you with a 2,207 total daily energy expenditure. So that is your maintenance. All right, that's maintenance calories. So that means that this person could set her goal for 2,200 calories a day and her weight would maintain. All right, she need to keep up the activity, right? Because you can't set it at 2,200 and then stop working out. Conversely, let's say she had it at 2,200 and then added on more, like training for a marathon or joined a boot camp class or got a Peloton bike, right? So then she might lose weight because she's going to be burning more. But your TDEE, when you do that precisely for your body weight and measurements and your activity, that should be your maintenance calories. So if you're just wanting to see what that is, sometimes that's really enlightening, because what I would suggest that I'm also going to put in the post is, if you haven't tracked your calories in a million years, or if you feel like you're gaining weight and you're not sure how or why, what I would do is take 5 days, make sure 2 of those days are weekend days, and I would track everything you eat for those 5 days, and I wouldn't change a thing about your patterns. So let's say you wake up first thing and you have a special coffee you make and you eat breakfast right away, do that the same. Let's say you wake up and you fast until noon, but you eat until 10 p.m., whatever, or you always have a drink and some snacks at night. Like, keep doing all those things, because what we're trying to establish is your patterns. So if you take 5 days, making sure you're including your 2 weekend days, because those are honestly different most of the time, and then look back over and track everything you eat, and do not change the way you eat. Be really honest with yourself about how you're eating, when you're eating, why you're eating, even if there's a special occasion in there. And then we can look back and see what that average of calories. And then you might be like, oh my gosh, like my maintenance is 2,200, but I'm eating 2,800, or my average is 2,500. So that's why I'm gaining 1 pound a month and I'm getting really frustrated. Or you might see that you have these 1,200 days in a row because you're really busy, you're at work, you're not thinking, you don't get to eat until 5 p.m. And then you have a 3,000 calorie day because you're starving, right? So then we need to figure out how to equalize that. Everybody has a different life. Everybody has a different style of eating. That's why, although I talk about 5-2 fasting with my clients, I talk about intermittent fasting with my clients, I really stay away from trying to tell people that there's only one way to eat, because eating is so, well, it's so cultural, number one, and it's so based on our body's nutritional needs, the demands, food preferences, lifestyles, priorities, everything under the sun. So the best way to eat is what works for you, right? What's going to be sustainable. But it's really important for you to see what kind of patterns and trends might be going on, that might be getting in the way of you seeing change. All right. So you have your maintenance calories. For phase one, what I would recommend is aim for a very conservative or conservative deficit. Another thing that people do is they jump the gun, they go to aggressive deficit. If you read any workout magazine, it will tell you to find your TDEE and then subtract 500 calories. That is 3,500 calories a week, and that's a pound. 3,500 calories is a pound. But cutting out 500 calories a day that you're normally used to eating, that's a lot of calories. Okay. So remember I said in the Zoom yesterday, we're thinking for an 8 to 12 week period, a very concentrated period of time. You do not need to come out of the gate with such a strict deficit. Start with 200 to 300 calories, or this 15 to 20% deficit. And then as you get into it, you can add a little bit more. All right. But starting right away is challenging for absolutely anybody, right? So slowly chipping is really the way to go. So with our 2,200 TDEE, and we do a very conservative deficit. So 15% of that, I do 2,200 times 0.15, then that leaves me with like a little over a 300 calorie deficit. Oh, okay, there we go. 331 calories. That leaves me 1,876, and I rounded up to 1,900. All right. I rounded up to 1,900 because, like I said, at least for the very first 2 weeks, do not go crazy and cut out 500 calories and automatically feel hungry and automatically feel restricted and automatically feel like you're on a diet. And oh my gosh, how am I going to do this for 2, 4, 6, 8 more weeks, right? We don't want to be in that mentality. Our mentality is slow and low and consistent change. All right. So I rounded up to 1,900, honestly, because if you have an even, much easier to do the math. All right. So we have that. Now, so 1,900 calories still puts me at a deficit, right? Well, still puts this person at a deficit, this 150-pound person at a deficit. And let's say too, they're just wanting to lose like 5 to 8 more pounds. All right. So here's how we get into the macros. Calories are the building blocks, and then macros are the specifics. Protein is 4 calories per 1 gram. So if there are 20 grams of calories in something, no, sorry. If there are 20 grams of protein, then that means 80 calories of that nutrition is protein calories. All right. Carbohydrates is also 4. All right. That's why a can of Coke can be 140 calories, because it's got 50 grams of carbohydrates, which is sugar, right? So sugar is always under the carbohydrates. It counts as carbs. As far as macros, that's why it drives that calorie up on those drinks. Fat is 9 calories a gram. That's why a tablespoon of olive oil is so much. Okay. Now, what you want to do is, and this is the easy part. All right. This is the easy part. So to set your grams of protein, you want to eat 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So I said this is a 150-pound person that we're doing this for. So easy peasy off the blocks, 150 grams. Okay. Now, that's a lot of protein. All right. And I have like a protein sheet that I am going to include for you guys. Some people really struggle with getting a lot of protein, either because it is so satiating, they're too filled up. Also, if you are vegetarian, it's hard. It's hard. Okay. I don't recommend eating like buckets of tofu and what's the other one? I don't know. There's another one, but you don't want to be eating all that soy. You don't want to be eating all that like enhanced stuff. You would want to try vegan shakes, like pea powder is one of the best metabolizing powders. Whey protein, I really like whey protein. That tends to have more too. But that is also looking at some you got to really look at your vegetables and make sure you're eating ones. Now, let's say you are 180 pounds and you're like, there's no way I can eat 180 pounds, or excuse me, 180 grams of protein. So then you want to look at 0.8. So look at 0.8 of that is 144. So 0.8 of 180 is 144 grams of protein. So if that is easier, like if you're higher and you are like, I know I can't eat the grams 1 for 1, 0.8 is there. Studies show that 0.8 to 1 is one of the best ratios for muscle building. So eating in that ratio, 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, is shown to be the best ratio when you're weightlifting for creating muscle, right? And keeping muscle while you're working out. Now, anytime you eat at a caloric deficit, you're going to lose muscle with fat. So protein is a key thing to keep eating because it helps rebuild your muscle and it helps your muscle stay. All right. So do amino acids, which are in proteins, but you can take them as a supplement. So I'm going to make a little supplement cheat sheet for you guys too. Things that I love, aminos, pre-workout, different kinds of vitamins, right? Things that you can add on that are super easy that can also help you feel good. So we said 150 pounds, 150 grams of protein, easy peasy. Now, remember, there's 4 calories per gram of protein. So 150 grams of protein equals 600 calories. We're going to subtract that from your caloric goal, which is 1900. And that leaves us 1300. That leaves us 1300 calories left over that we are now going to split into fat and carbs. Okay. So remember, like your calories are the umbrella, and then the macros is how we split it up. All right. So we know that we've got our essential amount of protein that we want to eat, and we took that away. So now we have 1300 calories that we want to figure out what to do with. Now, 45% fat and 55% carbohydrates is a really great ratio for satiation, right? And honestly, these are high numbers. Like, even though this is a deficit, there's a lot of fun food that you could still eat, right? You're not limited on different things. You can also experiment with this ratio and then tweak it as you go. So I'll probably show you how to do that in 2 weeks. Because the thing about macros is you do want to revisit them, especially when you lose weight. Because let's say you start eating, let's say you're 180 pounds and you're eating 144 grams of protein. And let's say you do that for a whole month and you lose 6 pounds. So now you're 172 pounds. All right. So now you need to fix your protein and your macros and things like that, your deficit, because that's all going to change. So from your 1300, from this model, 1300 calories left over, we're going to separate that into 45% fat and 55% carbs. So all you do is multiply it by the decimal. So 1300 times 0.45 equals 585. This is our fat. So we divide it by 9 because it's 9 calories per gram. That's how we get our grams. That's 65 grams of fat. 1300 times 0.55, that gives us 715 calories. 715 calories of what we eat is going to be carbohydrates. So we want to find that in grams. We divide it by 4 because it's 4 calories per gram, and then that's 178 carbs. All right, so you have your total down there, your total breakdown for 1900. All right, and there it is. Okay, so here, let's talk about what this might look like, right? I love this thing. I found this so many years ago, and I think it's such a great kind of overview because when you are eating with macros in mind, this is kind of how you start seeing the world, right? So you're like, okay, I'm gonna have eggs for breakfast, but you're like, okay, that's eggs, but that's just protein. Well, and if your goal is 150 grams of protein and you have 2 eggs, an egg only has 7 grams of protein. So that's only 14 grams of protein. So you're like, okay, I gotta have more protein. What can I do? Let's add egg whites. I don't have any fat, so I can add a slice of cheese. Lots of times cheese is even for protein and fat. So it's 6 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein. So if I have 2 eggs, I add egg whites, I add cheese, and then where's my carbs at? I got 178 carbs to eat for the day. Let's put it on a piece of toast, right? Piece of toast is 20 grams of carbohydrates. And sourdough actually has a couple grams of protein every once in a while. So you just went from your 2 eggs, which is only 14 grams of protein, to, let's say, with egg whites and a slice of cheese, you could be up to 30 grams of protein with that. And then have your 6 grams of fat and 20 carbs for breakfast. That's awesome, right? Way different, way more satiating, and then you're getting a little piece of everything. Okay. So I'll be putting this PowerPoint in the files too. So if you want to come back and have this and screenshot it, it's really helpful. Or say too, you get to the very end of the day and you don't know what to eat because you only got protein left. Take a look at that. Like those flavored bags of tuna, don't knock it till you try it. They're so yummy. They come in handy in the clutch too. All right, tips and slips for macros. If you do not have a food scale, get a food scale. All right. It is eye-opening, especially with things like oatmeal. And then too, if we got any other sourdough bakers in here, we always weigh our flour because different flours have different consistency. So you want to weigh your flour for the best, but that just kind of shows you that meat is different. So you also want to weigh your meat when it's cooked. Well, however you weigh it, that's how you want to log it. All right, which goes into tracking app. So if I say 4 ounces uncooked ground turkey or 4 ounces cooked ground turkey, just have to make sure I choose the right one and I weigh the correct one. And it's super easy. You get a food scale. Let's say you just wanted to build a little bowl. So you put a bowl on the food scale, you zero it out. You add rice until it's 100 grams, which also like rice is different consistency. So 1 cup of one kind of rice might be way different than 1 cup of another kind of rice. So do 100 grams of rice and then do 4 ounces of meat. And then I personally do not track vegetables. Number 1, because it takes so much time. And number 2, because they virtually don't have any calories in them. If I cook them in oils or butter or, if I dip them in anything, like if I have carrots and I'm dipping them in ranch or something, obviously I log the ranch. But I don't log the carrots. It just depends on how specific and picky you want to be. I feel like when it gets into that kind of stuff, it gets a little exhausting. So definitely get a food scale, definitely download. I use my Fitness Pal, always have. I think Lose It is another good one. If you have another one that you use, please share it because I'm always wanting to learn more. There's actually a macros app. You might have to pay for it. But in my Fitness Pal, you can set your macros. So you can do that too. It's under goals. So also ways to be successful, log your meals. All right, log your meals. The cool thing with my Fitness Pal is if you log a meal and then it's the next day, you can actually log the same meal. So you're not inputting little by little every single time. You can save your meals and just post them. And then that makes it easier. So batch prep too. Make a whole pan of potatoes. Make a whole pot of rice. Make a whole slow cooker of chicken that you can pull, that you can add to rice, salads, tortillas, omelets, whatever, pasta. Okay. So when you have stuff like that prepared, I find that when I have like a couple turkey patties already made, when I have little egg cups already baked, when I have rice already prepared, when I have ground meat already prepared, then I don't mess around in the kitchen as much. I don't snack as much. I come home, I'm so hungry. I'm like, oh, here's some rice. Here's some ground turkey. I'm going to heat it up and I'm going to add a little bit of cheese, sour cream, and salsa, and chop up a little fresh jalapeno. And here we go. Right? So easy. And you feel so good because you didn't stand around forever and be starving while you're cooking. You don't have to think about it. And you have all of that stuff already out. Things that can hurt progress is eyeballing those portions, right? So if you're just eyeballing it and you're not measuring it and you're not weighing it, then you're going to be off. If you're not tracking and measuring, you're guessing. Okay. So the bites, licks, and taste. This is funny. I'm coming down for a landing too, but this is a funny story. My daughter loves the Annie's mac and cheese because what toddler doesn't? But I was making that for her and it was only lasting like lunch and then like one other dinner. Well, last week I made it for her and she had it like every day for 4 days in a row. And I thought, wow, this box is really lasting long. And I thought, oh, it's lasting so long because I'm not standing over the pot, shoveling it in my face, eating it while she's eating it. Like I was eating a half a box of macaroni and cheese and not even paying attention or logging or realizing it. So it all adds up. It all adds up. Not planning your day ahead of time. And this also goes to tell you too, if you're going out for dinner, take a look at the menu, see what could be like a high protein meal, right? See, no matter where you go, there's got to be something that's very protein based that has some veggies and some good carbs with it. Choose that as your meal and log it ahead of time, especially if you're wanting to have a glass of wine. Log that glass of wine so that you see how many calories you have left for the day, all right, and how many macros. So plan your day out. Also, I don't think you have to prep every single meal that you eat, but I'm going to tell you, especially with school starting, if you have breakfasts and lunch planned, oh my gosh, it makes your day so much easier. All right. So if you have that already ready, already packed, a million times easier. Eating out frequently and guessing the macros, that's always going to be difficult. Okay. That's always going to be difficult. So there's just stuff that they do. Like, who knew that IHOP put Bisquick in their eggs to make them really fluffy? Did you know that? Because I learned it from my celiac friends who are gluten intolerant and thought they were ordering scrambled eggs and they weren't safe. All right. So there's things, the sweet potatoes at Texas Roadhouse, I know are notoriously delicious. I think they actually soak them in bacon grease, which is what makes them so. But here's the thing, you're logging a sweet potato but that sweet potato was something else. All right. So, when you're eating out a lot and you're just guessing, it's tough. Okay. So the more that you can control it, I'm not saying to never eat out. I'm just saying the more that you can control it, the easier it's going to be and the less you're going to feel like you're worried about it. And that's really it. Okay. That takes us to the end of our PowerPoint. And I hope the math was easy. And please comment and just be like, dude, I can't figure it out. Can you do my macros for me? 100% again. All right. But I'd love to know questions that you have. I love to know experiences that you have with it. And there's lots more goodies to come as far as like meal prep advice, different ways to put together a macro friendly meal with ease. And like I said, we're going to revisit it in a couple weeks and talk about how you can change your deficit, even change your macro makeup if you feel like it. And the whole idea with it is to make it work for you. All right. If you are starting from ground zero, I highly recommend you take 5 days this week to starting Wednesday to log everything you eat in that weekend, and you can really see what you're going with. You'll be surprised that you are probably eating significantly less protein than you think you are, and probably more fat than you think you are. I think I see that a lot with people. All right, myself included, as far as because when you're not eating enough protein, you're hungry. So your body wants to eat fat to feel satiated. So it's your body's way of trying to survive. And food is tricky. Food's tricky these days. And that a lot of that's out of our control. So let me know where you're at with it. And if you have any questions, and I will talk to you later. Okay, bye.